Hey, and welcome to Girl Be Free, a podcast designed to help women get unstuck and cultivate the life you want on your terms. I'm Siobhan, your host, and I'm passionate about empowering women to live their best life. Each week, you'll hear pep talks that will inspire and push you to take action so you too can start to be free and live the life you want. You can learn more about me at BeFreeProject.com. Now let's jump into the show. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Girl Be Free podcast. And y'all, I was tempted to call this episode the Winter Blues because I am so feeling like all out of my element right now because the weather here in Cleveland is like so draining and my creative juices are not flowing and I am just needing to be somewhere where it's warm and it's sunny and there's a beach because this weather is just really like putting a damper on my spirit. But anywho, that's not what we're here to talk about. Let me kick it off with what I am loving this week. And I love, y'all, the show Grace and Frankie on Netflix. I binge watched it last weekend, the most recent season, and I just love their chemistry. And I actually watched a video some time ago, and they are best friends in real life, which I think is so cool. And the video that I watched talked about like their sisterhood and, you know, supporting one another in their different projects. And now to see that they have a show together and is doing really good. And there's another season I hear coming out. So I really love the show Grace and Frankie on Netflix. If you haven't checked it out, you totally should. Another thing that I am loving this week is I posted this on Instagram and Facebook that I have been asked to be an Amazon influencer, which I think is so cool. So I created a page in Amazon or on Amazon where all of the books that I recommend from this point on will be there. And so whether they are books that I've read, books that I plan to read, or anything that I'm interested in as it relates to books or things that I know that will empower you or inspire you on your journey will be shared on that page. And so as an Amazon influencer, I do make a very small commission. So whether you purchase something from that link or you use the link but then purchase something else, I still make a little bit of commission. So I think that that's really cool. And so I'm going to, again, any book recommendations or anything that I'm just totally into, you will be able to find there. And the link for my link as an Amazon influencer will be shared in the show notes. All right, so let's get this topic started, right? So I get asked the question, actually this week, I got asked this question twice. And it was, how did you transition from working in corporate America and then becoming a full-time entrepreneur? Like, how did you do that? And what did that process look like to you? And I'm like, when I got asked the question twice, I'm like, oh my goodness, let me just go ahead and record a podcast on this topic or whatever, because apparently people want to know. And it was two totally different people in two different spaces that asked the question. So I think I've shared on a previous podcast that I worked in corporate America prior to launching Be Free Project. And the last job that I was at, I was there for 7 years. And I was laid off, and not just me, the whole site was closed. And so when I learned about the layoff, in my spirit, I felt like this was an opportunity for me to kind of do something different. And it was, I feel like the reason that I knew that it was my moment to do something different is because prior to getting laid off, there was this yearning for something more, this yearning to know my purpose, this desire to do something greater than just going to a job that I was dissatisfied with every day. And I wanted to know my purpose. I wanted to make an impact in some kind of way. I wanted to use my gifts, but I didn't know what that looked like. And to be totally honest, I wasn't in a position where I could say, oh, I'm just going to quit my job and figure this thing out. So I consider it a blessing that I got laid off from my job, because I felt like it was God saying, okay, this is your chance to kind of figure things out, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to do it, and I'm going to see if you're going to do it, right? So when I found out that I was getting laid off, even though I went through the process of updating my resume and looking for another job, I knew in my heart of hearts it wasn't something that I was going to do. And so I took a lot of time after getting my severance package and collecting unemployment to do the work that I coach my clients and students on all the time. And I was asking myself questions to kind of get to the root of what I really wanted. Because it's easy to say, oh, I don't want to work for anyone else, or I don't want nobody else to be my boss. I want to do my own thing. But if you don't know what that is, it's very unlikely that you're going to, do anything like that. So that is why I call myself a clarity cultivator, because we first need to figure out what we want before we can take action on anything, right? And so I was asking myself these questions and reading a lot of books, trying to figure out, okay, well, what do I want to do? Like, what do I want my life to look like? What are my gifts? Like, what am I good at? And then what would people be willing to pay me to do? And so I had lots of conversations with friends. I sent out emails asking my friends questions about what they thought I should do next. And then at the end of the day, I listened to my inner voice and that intuition that we all have. And the day that I received the news that I was getting laid off, I listened, I heard it, tears welled up in my eyes because I was like, oh my goodness, like even though I didn't want to be there, I wasn't expecting like something like that to happen. And I said, oh my goodness, this is it. And my spirit said, don't cry. This is your moment to take a chance on yourself. And so I did that. And so what that looked like was me throwing things at a wall, like figuratively, right? And trying to figure out, okay, well, should I do this or should I do that? Or what is this or what is that? And so I had these conversations with friends and emailed them and asked them, like I said, very specific questions. And it was so interesting because everyone gave me very similar feedback on what they valued from our relationship or what they saw me doing. So they would say something like, you have such a bubbly personality. You're very inspiring. You're genuine. You hold people accountable. You're very uplifting. Your top 5 personality traits, because that was something specific that I asked, is they said that you're caring, you're cheerful, you're fun living, you're resourceful, you're positive, you're encouraging, you're helpful, you're funny, you have such a sweet spirit, you're straightforward, you're driven, you're a goal setter, you're very thoughtful, you're motivating, you're always like looking to see how you can help other people. So I kind of took what they said and like meditated on it. I prayed on it, and I'm like, okay, these are my gifts. These are things that I do, whether someone asks me to do them or not, like holding people accountable, pushing people to pursue their dreams, motivating people, empowering them, sharing resources, making connections. Like those are good things that I'm naturally good at. And so with that being said, I said, okay, what can I do with this? And so I ended up taking, and I believe I said this on an earlier podcast, a 6-week group coaching boot camp program that helped me figure out like how to launch a business. And okay, even before I got to that point of how to launch the business, I made a decision that I was going to do it. Like I was going to use my gifts. I was going to do life coaching because I have been coaching for years and years and years without a title and doing it for free. And I didn't even know it was a thing. And then when I learned, like based on my personality traits and things that I was already doing with people that were close to me, I said, okay, let me put myself out there and we're going to see what this looks like. And so that's what I did. And once I launched my business in February of 2014, yes, it's been 4 years, y'all. I got 2 clients within the first couple of months that purchased like a $649 program that I had on my website. And from that point on, I knew that I was moving in the right direction, that what God put in my spirit was true, right? And that I could act on it and that I could do this, right? So the challenge, though, in that was I had no idea what it meant to be an entrepreneur. I had no one close to me that was an entrepreneur at the time. I had always been working for someone else in corporate America, retail, all that jazz. So when it was time for me to do my own thing, I struggled with having a structure. I struggled because it wasn't easy. Like, what is my day? What should I be doing every day? Time management, like I didn't know how to balance time. I was so used to the companies that I worked for. Like they tell you when to come to work, when to take your lunch, when you're off. So once you become an entrepreneur, you have to create that for yourself. And that is not easy if you don't have any experience or no one that you can call on. Another thing that was a challenge was I was very lonely. And this is why I am so adamant about helping people and connecting and sharing and teaching, because when I started, I had no one. It was just me behind my computer every day, researching, finding things on Google, finding things on YouTube, reading books, taking courses, all of that. Like I was doing it all on my own. And it was such a lonely place. And so that is one of the reasons that I created the Be Free Life classes, because I wanted to be around other women who were on the same wavelength as me and that have positive energy, and we can kind of flow with one another. But in the beginning, I didn't have that. And I thank God for my friend Kimber, who reached out to me, and she was like, hey, do you want to chat offline? And at first I was a little apprehensive because I'm like, wait, what? What is this? I have never had that experience where someone wanted to connect with me offline and they met me online. Like that wasn't a space that I was in. But she has been so influential in my business, and we're friends to this day. And again, I think it's now been like 3 or 4 years. And we would text every day. Occasionally we would talk. She would share things with me. She would help me out so much. And she still, to me, she's more so like a mentor, and I appreciate her so much. So, hey, Kimber, if you're listening. So she was the first, I guess, friend that I made. And then I went to a conference. I went to the Blogalicious conference in 2014, and I met Amber from talktoamber.com. Hey, Amber. And we met, and she lives in California, and she was like, oh, you're from Ohio? Do you know Tara? And I'm like, no, I don't know her. Like, I'm the only person, like I don't know anyone else in this space. And she was like, okay, I'm going to connect y'all. And she did. Like she connected Tara and I through Facebook. And then Tara and I met, and we started meeting up for at Panera Bread to like talk business and all that jazz. And from that point, like I have just started building like so many relationships with women entrepreneurs, where I talk about this all the time with you guys. Like I now have a tribe. And so I consider getting laid off a blessing, because I never would have met the women that I know today if I was still in that space. And the women in my life now are just so valuable to me in so many different ways. But that wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have been able to make this impact literally all over the world. I was showing on Instagram the other day, like on Instagram stories, how my brand is global. So there are people that are following in China, in India, Pakistan, all these, South Africa, like all of these different countries, I can see that are visiting my website on the daily basis. And I'm just curious to see how many people from all over the world are listening to the podcast. But I wouldn't have been able to make this type of impact if I wouldn't have taken a chance on myself. And so I share that to say, because I was asked the question like, well, how did you get started and how did you know what to do? And then how are you doing it every day in the way that you're doing it? Again, I'm just choosing to show up, and I'm doing it afraid, even with the butterflies in my stomach, even when things are not working out the way that I hope that they would, as fast as I want them to happen. I get it. I understand, like this is all a process. But the beautiful thing that I keep telling people is that I am in my purpose, and I know that is to be a light and empower others to be free. And I also understand that this process is not going to be easy, that there's going to be challenges, that there's going to be lots of wins. I'll face some losses, I'll have some failures, but I'm okay with that, because again, in the moment when I got the clarity, like this is what you're supposed to be doing, I can't turn it off. I can't do anything else. I don't have a plan B. Like Be Free Project is it. And so I have to figure out every single day, like how to continue to move the needle and move things forward, even when it gets uncomfortable. So I share that to say, this is not easy. It is a process. It is okay that it's okay to pivot and make changes. It's okay to take a chance on yourself. And if you don't know what to do, my first recommendation for you would be to sit still, be quiet, and listen, and trust your intuition. I don't want you wasting time, days, years, whatever, being unhappy, being miserable, being unfulfilled. Like I really want you to live a life that feels good to you inside and out. And the way that you do that is you start by doing the work. And that's going to be an investment into yourself. So that could be you investing with your time or investing with your money. That's reading books, that's networking, that's meeting new people, that's going to conferences, that's going to classes, that's taking different workshops, maybe going to the library, like so many different things that you can do to begin to invest in yourself. And I'm going to say this, and this will probably be a whole nother podcast, but y'all don't know my real struggle. So I've dealt with trauma. I've dealt with issues. I'm still working through some things. But the beautiful thing that I keep saying is that I'm choosing to show up because I know that there's work to do. And I know that I'm here to make a difference. And I know that I wasn't given this idea. I wasn't given like all of the opportunities that I have for no reason. Like I am here to be a light and empower others to be free through Be Free Project and through my podcast, Girl Be Free. And so whoever I'm able to connect and reach with, that is my mission, that is my goal, that is my purpose. And what I don't want for you listening is that I don't want you to do it alone. Like I really want to be able to help and to share the things that I had to learn on my own, but I want you to get it quicker. And I want you to do it with community and with support along the way, okay? And then I don't want you to make the same mistakes that I made. So here's some questions, and let's just jump right into it. This is the action step for this week. And I will type these questions in the show notes. So make sure you click the show notes link so that you can get these questions. But these 5 questions I want you to answer for yourself. And it's going to help you start to do the work. Number 1 is what makes you unique, okay? Number 2, what are 3 things that make you memorable? Number 3 is what would people say that you're good at? Number 4, what are your top 5 personality traits or quirks? And number 5, what are your top 2 to 3 areas of improvement? So these questions are the questions that I emailed my friends, and they all emailed very, very similar things that I shared earlier. And that helped me get more clarity and help me figure out what my next move would be. So again, that's your action step for this week, is to answer those questions for yourself. And then also email them out to maybe like 2 or 3 friends, maybe 5, to see the responses that you would get, and let that be your guide. And again, I will drop those questions in the show notes for you, so that way you can start to use them for yourself. So that is what I wanted to share for this week. I do have music to share as well. I watched Drake's video, God's Plan, and was in tears. And I guess I'm a crybaby because I was in tears because the whole video is how he gave almost $1 million away, just doing random acts of kindness. And we don't see that much from celebrities, at least maybe the celebrities that I follow. So to do a whole video where you can tell that it was genuine and he literally was just giving away money and groceries and all these resources away to people in need. It was so beautiful. If you haven't watched it yet, I'll drop the link to the video in the show notes as well. But it had me in tears, and it made me feel like this is what I want to do more of. Like, how can I give more away? Like, how can I do kind things? Like I said in the previous podcast, like having a good quality of life. That's being kind to others. That's giving back. That's putting a smile on your face. Like, there's so many different things that we can do to improve our life versus being miserable and complaining and making excuses, right? Next, I do want to let you know that many people have been reaching out to me asking me, was I offering one-on-one coaching? And at this time, I am not offering one-on-one coaching. However, I do have masterclass bundles that will be perfect for you if you're in a space where you're getting started with, you need to figure out how to get unstuck. And so I created a bundle for that where there's 2 videos, 2 workbooks to help you get clarity, figure out the areas of your life where you're stuck and how to move forward. I also created a masterclass bundle for if you're someone who needs help with goal setting. So I talked about goals a couple of episodes ago. So I created a whole masterclass for that. So it's 2 masterclasses and 2 workbooks just on goal setting. And then if you need both, like the Getting Unstuck and the Getting Undone masterclasses, and there's a bundle for all of them. And so again, as I mentioned earlier, I had to do all this alone. I've created masterclasses and workbooks so that you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to go search on Google and YouTube for the resources. I have them for you. The link will be in my show notes, so you can check that out. And then if at any time you have any questions, you can always feel free to shoot me an email at hello@befreeproject.com. I also want to share this with you, a quote for this week, which is, stop wishing and start doing. So I share that quote in the newsletter this week. So if you're not on my newsletter list, make sure you sign up for that. But that was a quote for this week, to stop wishing and start doing. Okay? I need my community, the Be Free community, the Be Free family, my BFFs, to start doing, start taking action. Stop wishing and hoping for things to happen and start making things happen. All right? Lastly, you can always support this podcast by donating a very small donation. That helps with like the hosting and all the things I'm doing behind the scenes. And I need to get a mic. Right now, just to be totally transparent with y'all, I use my earbuds to record these podcasts these episodes, because I didn't want to wait till everything was perfect to get started. Like, I wanted to get started with what I have, and I use my earbuds. However, I do want to work up and get a mic. So if you want to donate towards that mic, you'll get a shout out on the podcast and all that jazz. But I'll drop the link if you care to do so in the show notes. Any donation is much appreciated. But I just wanted to put that out there because people are always asking, because I give so much and because I do so much, and they know that this is my full-time job as Be Free Project and running this podcast. They wanted to know how they can support me. And so that is one way. So as always, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening. And until next week, girl, be free. Thank you so much for listening. Your support means the world to me. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling really fancy, go ahead and leave a review. Until next time, be free and live.